The unexpected death of someone whose name that will forever be linked to the independence campaign.
The first 100 days of Sir Keir Starmer's Tory-light Labour government.
UN peacekeepers once more caught up in the latest chapter of tit-for-tat shootouts in the Middle East.
All this and more in this month's episode of the Recce Report. Stay tuned. Hello and good evening, everyone, to this, the 29th episode of the Recce Report. I'm your co-host, Russ, former British Army Warrant Officer.
And I'm the other co-host, former Army Corporal Cliff Purvis. And first up, Veterans for Scottish Independence 2.0 would like to send and extend its condolences to the family and friends and supporters of Alex Salmond. As I think most of us are aware, Alex Salmond passed away on Saturday whilst on a speaking trip to Macedonia. It would appear, having read the press reports, that it was from a sudden cardiac arrest. Obviously, I'm not privy to his medical history, so as yet we do not know if it was anything underlying that he had or if it was completely unexpected. So once more, we extend our condolences to his family, his friends, and supporters.
There's a sad day, Cliff. You know, like him or loathe him, he was absolutely, the face of the independence campaign. Back in 2014, he brought us within spitting distance of crossing that line. And I think in that respect, we've got to, you've got to give him some kudos for that. And it's a shame. And 69 is not old,
No.
not these days. So it is an absolute shame, mate, to see that happen.
It's only 6 years older than myself, Russ.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not older. And to come out of the blue as it did, sad days indeed. Sad days indeed.
Yeah. From a military perspective, we can say he absolutely died with his boots on, which I think is better than most of us can hope for.
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish any of that. As we say, our massive condolences and thoughts to his family and friends in this sad time.
Yeah.
But
as I'm sure he would have wanted, things do move on.
Yes.
In the political sphere.
Yes.
Yeah. There will come a time for paying more respect with his funeral, but we need to move forward. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Russ, but I'm still trying to get my head around this new government down in Westminster.
Is that a new government, or is it just more of the same, mate? It's been 100 days, which seems to be an American thing that we've imported here. That aspect of the first 100 days. I don't seem to recall hearing about it. To be fair, Liz Truss didn't make 100 days, did she? But
she didn't even do half of that. She only did 49 or 46 or something like that.
But yeah, that aspect of and they've come in, and I think that they've not been great. Let's be fair. The whole winter fuel allowance should have been an easy goal for the new Labour government, and they royally screwed the pooch on that. The interesting thing, I think, is the vitriol that seems to be coming from the Tories, who seem to have forgotten stuff that they done last week. They're like, you haven't fixed this. What, that thing you spent 14 years buggering up? It's amazing. It's that, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. We deserve better politicians.
Oh,
we absolutely do, mate.
Yeah, if you think the wages that they are on, and it's always the excuse made, the wages they are on has to be paid to get the quality of people into government, into the House of Commons. Yeah. Well, sorry, 400 and odd baboons could do a better job. Are bound to strike the right key on the typewriter eventually. More so than what is happening with any of the past governments. And let's be honest, the reason that the Tory party, if you want to still call them that, are hammering at Labour is to deflect away from all the catastrophic governance that they carried out in 14 years, regardless of who was Prime Minister. Liz Truss, Boris Johnson were probably the two worst Prime Ministers the UK has ever had. But the Tory parties, I don't know if they actually wrecked it, because Labour under Gordon Brown and Tony Blair were doing their best to wreck stuff. They just the Cameron, Clegg, and then Cameron, and then was it Dancing Queen herself? What was her name?
Theresa May.
That's Theresa May, right? And then Boris, and then Johnson, and then Liz Truss and Sunak. They've all just carried on the same, and as each of them have passed the baton on to the other one, their actual character, their moral fibre, their ability has gotten weaker.
And the focus, I've seen it this week, the focus on the two potential new leaders of the Tory party, Jenrick and Badenoch, they're giving credence to this insanity that they're coming out with. But we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Well, no, there's not going to be another election for 5 years, mate. You're going to do rat shit.
Yeah.
Like you probably won't even be the leader of the party by that point.
Oh no, I'm absolutely convinced Farage will have absorbed what's left of the Tory party into his ranks. And he'll be sitting outside the Houses of Parliament and on his white steed, ready to ride in when his thugs take the keys.
Yeah. An interesting comment here from Evelyn. She says that I think the new government are deliberately targeting benefits that are devolved in order to cut Scott Gov budget and force them to roll back on things like tuition fees, prescriptions, school meals, etc. That's an interesting comment. On one hand, I don't think Labour are that joined up in order to do that, but I think if it does happen, it'll almost be an afterthought. It'll be a nice to have for them, the fact that they'll do these things. I'm cautiously semi-optimistic at the moment, because it has only been 3 months, to try and undo 14 years of Tory austerity. And the truth is, most new governments don't actually start making any real difference until about 12 months in, when they're sort of comfortable with they're comfortable in their briefs. They know what they're supposed to do, they know what powers they have, what they can and can't do. But the issue we have, good old Labour are doing what they've done for years, is they're reacting to headlines.
Yeah.
But those headlines are coming from right-wing ideologues in the media.
Yeah.
And that's where Labour always cock it up.
Yeah.
They think they think that's popular, so they go for it, but it's not. It's just been amplified by these morons.
Yeah, same way they've been amplifying everything for the last, at least 14 years. The thing about them being settled and knowing what they're doing after 12 months, Russ, might be a little bit extended, because I was reading today that they were offered, potential Labour ministers were offered a course run by the Institute of Government, a well-respected think tank, I believe. They'd say, look, come along, we'll show you how government works, what this is. And very few of them bothered. They all signed up and said, yeah, this would be a great thing. But very few of them actually attended. So they seem to be winging government. Yeah. And in this day and age, that it's, what they do in the Donald Trump School of Politics, because that's what they seem to be doing.
And we're talking about it, and the truth is, it's happening all over the world. I mean, I find it insane, right, that the US presidential election is still on a knife edge. Honestly, and sometimes I feel confident about humanity, and then I read headlines that say that it's neck and neck in the US election, and I think the zombie apocalypse can't come soon enough.
Yeah, Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean,
we don't deserve this planet, mate, do we?
no. The well, that's it. I mean, coming out of the States, we had, was it, they were saying that both hurricanes that hit Florida and the neighbor, is it Georgia, um, were man-made, controlled by the U.S. government. Yeah. And you're sitting there,
I know.
seriously, you want to believe that? Yeah.
I know. Just what we're talking about, get a little comment here from Wolf. Oh, come on, they've had 14 years to prepare, talking about the Labour Party. Bless you think they've been doing anything in the past 14 years other than infighting, backstabbing, and jockeying for position.
Well, they spent.
I mean, they spent 3 of those years trying to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn, didn't they?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You turning into a mind reader, young Russ. Yes, they spent that 14 years doing the junket around the cameras, TV interviews, the press interviews, ripping into the government in power, just like their predecessors in government are now doing to them. And they're all picking up handsome wages for it.
Yeah, they're jumping on everything. They really are. Boris has got his book out this week. I read today, and I don't want to scare anyone, but I read today that apparently there has been comments from Boris about possibly running for PM again. That would cheer up some people on the right of politics. Absolutely.
Yeah. He may well run for politics again. He may well go towards, was it the neo-Nazi reforms? He might well do that, and there are enough people south of the border that would actually find his brand of politics comfortable, and he probably would get voted in. But thankfully, as was witnessed with that neo-fascist unsuccessful coup d'etat after Labour got into power, when their thugs were quite quickly arrested and jailed, the majority of people south of the border are actually fair-minded people, regardless of what the press says.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, and you see it, and I think you see it in the States as well when it's outside of that bubble, where they're so adamant they're right, and they came out and they expected. I don't know what they expected in the light of that horrific murder that happened, whether that burning down hotels that were housing asylum seekers was going to result in them getting a pat on the back and a medal from the king. But what happened was that the majority of people looked to that and realised that was absolutely atrocious, and they rightly got banged up.
Yeah,
and you've seen it. You've seen the woman that threw it. That threw a burning bin at police, ended up getting banged up. Absolutely ridiculous. And the truth is, people say that's England. Well, we can't shy away from the fact in Scotland that we've had sectarian issues, certainly in the Central Belt, for so long. Maybe we're quite lucky that the politicians have not seized on that as a means to divide us, because it wouldn't take much.
Oh, it's an easy one, and my own personal thoughts on that is they have actually kept that one simmering along quite happily. Well,
having said that, that was Jenrick today. I seen the interview. He's saying, we can just rewrite parts of the Good Friday Agreement. It doesn't depend on the European Court of Human Rights. That is the stupidity of a potential leader of the Tory party that thinks she can just arbitrarily, tear up a treaty, tear up a law just because. I don't even know why they want to come out of the ECHR, so you can treat people worse than you already do. Is that even possible?
It's because they see it as a way of covering their own tracks. They know it is them that is the problem. They know it is their policies that have been the problem. They know that they have themselves systematically underfunded the public works, the National Health Service, the police, the railways, it is the roads. It is them that have done that, and they want to blame it on those that don't look the same, speak the same, pray to the same God, have the same ideology, that type of thing, because it's easy targets. And we just need, as we have said before, we just need to look at very recent European history to see where that ends up, because it did not start with gas chambers.
It did, mate, and I seen something today, so I don't know if our viewers are aware. I don't want to patronise people, but aware of what's called the Overton window. Have you heard that term? So the Overton window was a term coined by someone about how people are inclined to accept political change. So you have a window which includes your traditional left, right, centre, right, and that's what people know. And if people try and move too far outside of that window, people just won't vote for it, right? So there's a window, a boundary, a fence, whatever you want to call it. But what someone pointed out today is that now you have the Tories are now leaning towards the far right, Reform or far right. Labour is actually now centre right. The Lib Dems are hugging the centre. Greens are centre left. The SNP are slightly further right. But what that means is that Overton window has actually shifted slightly to the right, and normalised in people's eyes more right-wing thinking. And that's how it starts. You're right. It doesn't start with the gas chambers. It starts with the normalisation of the less extreme right-wing ideas of controlling borders and and blaming everyone except the bloody bankers and the politicians for your problems.
Yeah.
And they just because it doesn't start with the gas chambers. That Overton window gets nudged ever so slightly over time, and then when it's over here, you don't even realise that where it used to be.
Never heard of that one, Russ. Thanks for that, buddy.
You end with the modern studies politics lesson. Yeah, the Overton window. Please Google it.
Yeah, no. I don't need to. I've got my walking, talking Google sitting there. Other platforms are available.
Have you just Googled Overton window?
No.
Okay.
That would be me using more than one screen at a time. Come on now. We know I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah. But it's outrageous the fact that in 2024, it's what, 80 years since, almost 80 years since the end of the Second World War. In such a short time, we seem to have forgotten, the country seems to have forgotten what it was people fought for at the time. You've seen literal Nazis now, not calling themselves Nazis, but espousing that same bigoted rhetoric now in the mainstream of British politics. There's Hashbury's book.
Hashbury.
the little definition of the Overton window is a range of policies acceptable to the mainstream population at a given time. It's also known as the window of discourse. There you go.
There we go. Well done, Hashbury.
Thank you. And it's nice to know that I wasn't talking complete piffle as well.
It's also a good one, that. Yes, so which kind of leads us into the whole thing about the Middle East.
Yes, talking about that right-wing discourse, and the truth is, Israel is a political entity. It always has been. The formation of Israel was a political decision. How it was carved up was a political decision. And even since then, even if it didn't start out as a sort of right v left type thing, it has been supported heavily more by the right wing than it has anyone else. It's been supported emotionally almost by the USA and Great Britain, to the extent where, you see the extent of where we are now, where you can actually see, we've got no excuse. We talked about the rise of fascism and the rise of the Nazis in Germany in the 1930s. We don't even have the excuse now that we weren't aware of it. No, I'm certainly not for a moment suggesting that that Israelis or Jewish people generally are, looking for ethnic cleansing. But the truth is, the political leaders seem to be.
Yeah.
And we talked about this offline the other day, Mike, when we talked about the Irish peacekeepers, the UN peacekeepers there. And there's Irish and Italian, a few others as well. And we talked about the last time that we both recall when UN peacekeepers were almost kind of impotent to act, which was in, what did we say, it was 1993 in the former Yugoslavia? 1995, sorry, in the former Yugoslavia, when the Danish UN peacekeepers stood by. Okay, I was close. Sorry, Dutch people, for calling you Danish. Sorry, Danish people, for calling you Dutch. But the Dutch peacekeepers stood by impotently whilst a massacre was undertaken.
Yeah.
Now, the people that carried out the massacre felt that they were absolutely in the right and were supported. But fast forward a few years, and Mladic, the guy that was in charge at the time, is now serving a life sentence in prison for war crimes.
Yeah.
So I hope, I hope the leader of Israel, what's his name?
Can't pronounce it.
Netanyahu. I hope Netanyahu's getting a little bit comfortable, because there's a prison cell at The Hague waiting for him.
There's absolutely precedent on this planet for doing stuff like that. Now, I did the UN tour out in Bosnia, '93.
You did,
yeah. And I know what it's like to get between the warring factions with the blueberry on. It provides you no protection whatsoever. Right? Basically, those that are wanting to do ill towards others will do ill towards others, regardless of who's in front of them. But there was a big outcry about that. There was the world clambered around the UN peacekeeping force, and suddenly NATO aircraft were in the air, and then eventually it led to NATO taking over the role out there with the implementation force.
IFOR, it went from UN to IFOR.
Yeah.
And that was, directly as a result of what happened in Srebrenica.
Yeah.
Is that it no longer became peacekeeping; it went to IFOR, which was peace enforcing.
Yeah.
Now, whether there's a will, now people might point out, because you're all intelligent people, that Ireland's not actually a member of NATO. But Italy is, and their peacekeepers were in the same compound.
Yeah, absolutely. So where's the balance?
Yeah. Honestly, there was footage today, mate, of the attack on I think it was either a refugee camp or a settlement camp, which effectively, where there's video footage of men, women, and children burning.
Yeah.
Burning out, and not. Please, please don't look please don't look for this stuff if you're easily upset. But it is heartbreaking, where and it's just diminished. The media downplay it.
Yep.
The media will say, 23 people died. If the Palestinians, if it's Israelis, they'll name them. They'll name them and say, "Oh, it was a 19-year-old soldier." Yeah, 19-year-old soldier that torched the tent city. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me, certainly as a former soldier, to see people, to see discipline so seriously, but it's not even broken down. It's just not being enforced in the first place.
Yeah.
It's been literally like, go do what you want.
Yeah. Well, that very much seems to be the order of the day. They will just use whatever weapon systems they choose to use against whatever supposed target is in front of them. And we always, I guess, we had sort of collateral damage at the back of our mind, and that steadied our hand on many occasions. I'm using the collective eye for Brit forces. So
that was the beauty of the UN. People didn't want to mess with it because they knew that after the UN came the big guns.
Yes.
The UN can't deal with it. you muck it
Yeah.
up too much, then
Then
people
you
will
have
start.
members of the Security Council that
Yeah.
certainly have the
Yeah.
facilities to deal with it. The trouble
Yeah.
is, two of those Security Council members happen to be back in Israel at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Keir
Yeah.
Starmer's partial ban on weapons to Israel.
Yeah.
What on earth is the point in that? You might as well not have done it at all.
It is unreal, taking away, any idea of, who's got a right to be there and illegal settlements and all that sort of stuff. The truth is, people are dying.
Mm.
People are dying, and they're not going to stop dying until they're made to stop fighting and get around the table,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, there's only two ways this ends: with the complete destruction of an entire group of people, or people get around the table and start talking.
Yeah.
Now, I know which one of those I'd prefer to happen,
Yeah.
but we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, it's, as I said at the top of the show, it's just tit for tat. This has been since Israel came into existence. This has been on the go with a few years of peace, or not even peace. I mean, they've always been at each other's throats since Israel came into existence, and that was such a marvelous idea. Yeah,
1946. I mean, who would have guessed that Britain drawing lines on a map and saying this is what counts now would come back and bite them on the ass? It worked so well with the partition of India and Pakistan, didn't it?
Oh, it did. And Ireland.
Oh yeah, that worked well.
Yeah.
We had no issues whatsoever since the partition of Northern Ireland, of Ireland and Northern Ireland, have we?
No.
It's been sunshine and unicorns.
Something like that. Have you clocked the time?
I have, mate. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see everyone joining us again. And I love your questions and your comments. Hashbury's saying there that Israel was considered as a beachhead for the USA if necessary. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these countries in the Middle East, I mean, they're just warmongers. Can you see how close they put the countries to all these US bases?
Yeah. Yes, as the story goes. Yeah. Right.
But just finally, before we finish up, mate, one thing we did miss was was Diego Garcia.
Yes, the Chagos Islands.
Yeah.
Now,
again, apparently given back to the Chagosians, but not really.
Yes. And are the US handing back that base or not?
I don't know. I think they'll probably end up just paying someone else to stay there that's not Britain now.
Right.
But that raised the whole thing about, what about the Falkland Islands? What about Gibraltar? And you're like, that's a false equivalence, mate. But the one thing I want to point out is the negotiations to hand back Chagos Islands began 5-6 years ago with the Tory government.
Yeah.
Right. So they can't turn around and say, they're trying to say, oh, Labour gave it away. No, Labour just finished up what you started. Evelyn's saying, I think US get to lease the base. That would not surprise me.
Thank you, Evelyn.
But they'll now not be leasing it from the British independent overseas territories, British Indian overseas territories. They'll be leasing it from
which came into existence by an order of the Privy Council.
Yeah.
People seem to think the Privy Council is a toothless, doesn't do anything. It was the Privy Council that decided this. It was not Parliament.
Yeah.
This is why we need out of this union.
All move, mate. It really is. And that, good viewers, brings us quite neatly to the end of our time for this month. It always goes so quickly. We enjoy so much speaking to you and feeling that you're listening, and your feedback, your questions, your comments are always so welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I've had so much fun, mate. I think we should do this again on the second Monday of next month. What do you reckon?
Oh, I think we could go that way, Russ. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I find it warmed up in here, by the way.
Are you there? You were shivering earlier, mate.
I was, yes.
You're terrible, aren't you?
Yeah. Hard done by.
But it's all good fun, mate. And don't forget, before you see us next time, that at the end of this month, the clocks will go back.
All right, yeah. Woohoo.
That'll be on the night of the 26th of October, so 12 days' time.
Hey, we're almost like a public service now, but Russ.
Yeah, so remember to put your clocks back and don't be late. Well, yeah,
early.
or you be trying to watch us an hour early, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you don't, there we go. But thank you, everyone. Take care, and we shall see you soon. Cliff,
Yeah.
final word.
Cheers for that, folks. Thanks for joining in. Always a pleasure to see the comments popping up. And remember, the future is still bright. Independence is right.
Shar Alba. Take care, everyone.
Take care.